Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We're here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is John Ainsworth and today's guest is Alyson Lex. She's the former marketing director for Glazer Kennedy Insiders Circle, whose first sales letter generated nearly $9,000 in less than 3 days to a list of barely 200 people. And now she's a hired gun for all of your marketing stuff. We're going to be talking about creating info products. She's got an educational background as well as having worked for Dan Kennedy, who, if you don't know, by the way, because some people listening to this are not seriously into marketing, he's the old school name in direct marketing. Was out at a course, Funnel Hacker Live recently, and he said that they were there and Dan Kennedy went on stage and said, "None of you internet marketing geeks would be here if it wasn't for me."
He's not wrong. He's not wrong, because I remember, if you can imagine how young Russell Brunson looked 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I saw him on the Glazer Kennedy stage starting his journey. You know, Frank Kern was on the GKIC stage, a ton of them were on that stage. And Dan and Bill, Bill Glazer is an amazing copywriter in his own right as well. Unlocked a love of marketing I never knew I had.
So today we're going to be talking about creating info products, why you might not be making more courses, how to put them together more easily, and how to make them in a way that helps with selling them too. Now, before we get into the meat of the podcast today, we're going to talk about a few different techniques that you can use to grow your online course revenue. There's like 8 techniques that we use internally that we find are the ones that make the biggest difference. And you're almost definitely not doing some of them at the moment. So if you're curious to figure out which of them they are, what you're not doing, how much more money you could make, then go to courseprofitreport.com, fill in the survey. It's like 8-10 questions, something like that. And my team will make a personalized report for you, helping you figure out what are the ones you're missing, how much more money you could be making, and give you some tips about implementing them. So back to the show. Alyson, thanks so much for coming on today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. And that audit sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty badass. Yeah.
It sounds awesome.
So talk to us about creating info products. I know that you do a lot of stuff around marketing them and email marketing, but today we're going to focus on creating the courses, which I know you've got a lot of expertise in that as well. There's a bunch of places where people can make more money, right? They can have a bigger audience. They can be better at email marketing. They can have better sales pages. They can have order bumps and upsells, all these different kinds of things, right? But one of the things that really helps is having enough courses to sell. If you've only got one, it's harder than if you've got a bunch of different courses. And so we always see a big uptick when a client has a new course that goes out because their previous customers might buy it, and new customers, it always does pretty well. We've got a client at the moment, she's just had a new course come out for the first time, and she's got hit 200 grand this month from that new course, which is fabulous to see, right? It's wonderful. I mean, but it's hard,
So it's so funny because you said the word, it's hard, but it's simple. But just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy, right? Yeah. It does require work. It does require patience. It does require focus and investment in the right place. And I think that people think all of that is too hard for the result that you're going to get.
Okay.
I think that's a big issue, right? Okay. Then you have people who may not have a course already. Maybe they're a service provider and they are afraid. Well, who's going to take me seriously, right? There's a ton of imposter syndrome, a ton of comparisonitis. So-and-so already teaches it. I can't, who's going to listen to me? So-and-so is already doing this. And so there's some internal work that has to be done. There's also, again, people who may do one-on-one or service done for you type stuff, and they may try it and it doesn't go the way they want. And so they retreat back to their one-to-one because that's safe. That's safety. I think that's a big reason. And then there's the stuff like, I don't know what to teach. And it's not that you don't have the expertise. It's not that you don't know what you're doing or you're not good at what you're doing. It's that you're too good and you struggle to narrow it down, or you struggle to figure out how to put your process together in a way that other people can understand, learn from, and see transformation because of. I mean, am I hitting any hot buttons for you? I think that it can feel overwhelming to figure out how to put it together, to figure out how to market it. How do I make this thing successful? My audience isn't big enough, or it's too big, or I don't know what they want, or all of these things, or I've tried it before, it didn't work, and I'm not going to do it again. That's a big one too.
So how can people put together courses more easily then? What's some of the things they can do?
Well,
And is that the right place to start, or is the right place to start figuring out what it is you should make the course about?
so it's a little, yeah, I mean, figuring out what you're going to do is going to help you make it more easily. And so that was going to be my step one. So you read my mind there, but it's figure out where the intersection between what you know and what they want. Okay. There's a lot of stuff I know, and I can tell you with 110 bajillion percent certainty, it is nothing that my audience wants, right? They don't care. And what they want is this particular column of my expertise, of my knowledge.
Mm.
You got to find that for you. If you are, I'm just going to go weight loss because that's what hit my head right now. But if you teach people how to lose weight healthily, right? We're not talking crash fad diets. We're not talking crazy stuff. I'm going to help you deeply transform your life so that you lose the weight in a healthy way. I can guarantee you, your people don't want that, right? And this is going to go into the marketing side, but especially with weight loss, like if you were to offer me a weight loss plan or a weight loss pill, chances are I'm going to take the pill because I want it easy, right? And so what we have to do is find the pill for your audience. What's the easy result that they're looking for? There are a couple of ways that you can find this. One, ask them, your current clients, your current customers, your raving fan subscribers or followers, what do they want? You can look at the content that you've put out that has gotten the highest engagement and go on that. The questions that you get asked about the most. So if you put content out and people want clarification on XYZ and you see that same pattern showing up all the time, well, there's a course. Answer that question. You can also look at what other people are doing. And I want to give a caveat on this, okay? Because, and we talked about Funnel Hacker. When you look at somebody else's business from the outside, you're missing a whole lot of data. Okay. So you don't know if that's as successful as you think it is just because it looks one way. And your audience may be very, 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 very similar to theirs, but you're never going to have the exact audience because you're not the exact person. But you can see what themes and trends are showing up in your industry and how can you bring a unique approach to that? How can you bring a new point of view or a more in-depth explanation or from a different angle? And so I put that kind of last in my little list because that's not the first place to start. The first place to start is what your people will want. And what I like to do is test out course ideas with lead magnets or other free things. And this has a double benefit of growing your email list. And I know you're all about that email list. You want to build that. So we have somebody to market to, we own that data. But let's say you're thinking about doing a course in how to lose 10 pounds without putting down the pan of brownies. I don't know. Again, weight loss. Okay. Do a webinar on that. Pitch it to your people. Do a little 30-minute training on that and see what the registrations look like. If you get like a bajillion registrations and your landing page is converting at 99%, then heck yes, make that course. If it's crickets, let's try something different. And that allows you to validate an idea before you put the effort and the energy into creating it.
So when you're doing that, so we've got a few different ways there, right? You said about ask people. You talked about doing lead magnets. Maybe it's a free training or a webinar or something like that to get people test it out. How, when you say ask them about it, how are you doing? Are you doing 30-minute in-depth interviews with people? Are you just throwing out questions every so often and having a chat with them? Are you doing surveys? How are you specifically think you're doing that so that people know what to do?
Yeah, I really like either like a DM or messenger conversation or a quick 10-minute call. Definitely not 30-minute calls unless I'm basically rewarding them somehow, incentivizing. And it's really going to depend on your audience. So my audience tends to be really busy. It's hard to nail people down. They don't want to really necessarily invest that time and effort because they've got other priorities. And I respect that. And it's, hey, can I ask you a few questions via DM? Or that kind of thing. So you really, and Amy Porterfield actually talks about this. It's the ICA calls, and she recommends a call, but again, I find the DM and she talks about some of the questions. So if you just Google Amy Porterfield ICA, you'll find she probably has a podcast episode on it. But it's really, I'm thinking about putting together a course on X.
Mhm.
This is a little bit about what it would include, like 3 or 4 bullets. Does that sound interesting to you? Would you buy that? How much would you pay for that? Ask them that open-ended question first, right? Before you go into, would you pay X? Would you pay Y? Would you, right? We want to find out where their head is before we give them a number. So I see a lot of people that are like, oh, would you pay $27 for this? Yes. Cool. But if I had let them speak first, they would have paid $127.
Mm.
So I want to always use open-end questions. Wow, that was tough. Before I use yes or no or closed-ended multiple choice style questions. I want their words.
Mm.
I want their thoughts. So, what do you think of this topic? Is this something you would be interested in? Can you let me know a little bit more about that? Right? Get their words. Get them to tell you what they're thinking. Not only is that great for validating an idea, then you can save those answers. And now you have some marketing copy, which we can talk about in a couple minutes if you want.
Mm. Nice. Okay. So you've gone through and you've chatted with a bunch of people. Is there another stage after that? Let's say you go, okay, there seems to be consistently a lot of interest in this particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an idea of the price point for it. I recorded all the calls, and so I've got some stuff that I'll use later for my marketing language document. What's next? Do you then go into creating it, or are there more stages of like checking it? Like, do you do pre-selling it, or are you doing surveys as well? Or is it just, do you find this is enough, these kind of questions?
So I find that surveys are hit and miss with this kind of thing. Again, you can get a good number of responses. 1, if your audience is big enough, and 2, if you incentivize them the right way. Basically, people are not always going to spend the time to give you feedback without something in it for them. That's why when you're at the store, they're like, oh, fill out the survey on the receipt and be entered to win the $500 shopping spree, right? Like, they incentivize you because they know that unless you have a negative experience, they're not going to hear from you. That's just the way it is. That's why Yelp is full of 1-star reviews. Because unless somebody has a negative experience, they're less likely to reach out and give feedback. The same holds true when you do surveys. So be prepared to incentivize with whatever seems appropriate for you, whether it's a grab bag of goodies, a free consult. If you're going to incentivize with something that's outside of what you typically offer, like an Amazon gift card or an iPad or something that the general public will want, I would then keep the survey only to your house list, not to social, not to public, because you're going to dilute your data there. But if you offer something that is within what you offer, you're a beauty coach and use beauty products, right? Or whatever, then it can be public. It's not as good the data isn't as good, even though it can give you a wider range than the DMs and the calls. It's a little less work, but a lot of people find it really hard to get responses. And then let's say you've done some surveys, you validated an idea, you had a webinar, it was really, really good, and you're ready to make your course. Okay. So the content, it doesn't have to be like a hard, long process to put it together. I love pre-selling, like you mentioned. Make money before you make the course. That is the ultimate validation. And so you can do a pre-launch, a beta. A lot of people are doing beta, especially for group coaching program type things now. But if you're looking at a lower level course that is designed to be, I call it self-study, so there's no involvement or interaction with you, offer an early bird. Hey, it's going to launch on October 1st. If you buy before then, you get it at half off, or whatever price point you're comfortable with. That's a fantastic way to make sure that it's going to sell before you actually finish creating it. Then when it's time to do the creation, there are a couple of ways that you can make that easy too. And the first is, chances are you have a plethora of existing stuff. You've done webinars, you've done keynotes, you've had an event, you've created content for a membership, you've put for a Patreon, whatever. How can you maybe repurpose some of that? How can you put it together in a way that will add to what you are doing? Or you can add to it or use it as a base, right? So if you have a 10 video series on your YouTube channel from 2016 that's still relevant today, those could be part of the product as long as they're not outdated.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the objections to that is, but they could get it if they looked for, well, yeah, if they looked for it, they could get it. If I looked for anything, I could get it, but I'm still going to pay someone to do it for me. Right? So get out of your head that they have to pay for brand new, never heard before information, because there isn't any of that anymore. There are no new ideas, just new ways of presenting it. And so you're saving them the time, effort, and energy they would need to go and cobble together that solution from your YouTube videos, your blogs, other people, whatever, and figure it out for themselves. So they're paying for the process, not necessarily the way it's packaged. You can use stuff that has been publicly available in the past. Might you want to take those videos down? Sure. Maybe not, especially if that's not going to be the only part of your course. I wouldn't just take your 10 video series from 2016 from YouTube and be like, here you go, pay me money for it. But it can add to it. If one of the things I did at Glazer Kennedy all the time was we recorded audio and video of every single event. Every single event. There were 2 to 3 to 4 a year, and they got turned into products. We would get them transcribed, edit the transcriptions and segment so they were legible, you could read them. We would take any slides, or Dan used overhead, the transparencies with the overheads. He would use those. We would put them in a book along with the transcript. They would get the CDs and the DVDs that we would go through, and we would cut anything that was weird or that needed to be cut. And there's a product. And we charged $1,000 for it, which, by the way, was still cheaper than going to the event. And they sold like hotcakes. That's just one way to create a product from an event. I mean, it was just a no-brainer. If you have events. If you've held webinars, put them together. How can you package together webinars that are not available to the public, right? Oh, maybe over the years.
Yeah, it might have been free when you first did it, but it's not even available now.
It's not even available. So package them together.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe you throw a workbook together, which you write out some questions, send it to a graphic designer, have them make it look pretty. You have a workbook. And it doesn't have to be this big, huge production of content creation. Now, if you don't have any of that, okay, write out your outline, open up a Zoom meeting, and start talking. I think Zoom will even screen share an iPad now. You can get an iPad with an Apple Pencil and just write, instead of even using PowerPoint or Canva slides. It doesn't have to be the highest quality of production. Now, that being said, if you're charging a whole lot of money, the production quality should increase. But if it's an entry-level product, let's get it done and get it out, get it to the people who pre-bought. You can always go back and fix it. That's the nice thing about the internet. I always say it's the internet, not a stone tablet. It's editable. You can go in and edit it. You're hosting it in a membership area, swap out the video, right? The point is to just get moving. All right. And so in an effort to get moving, I'm going to give you my formula for what each module or each thing is going to be. All right. The first thing you want to do is the teach. Okay. So this is for group coaching programs, for individual products, whatever. Teach them something. Then you're going to assign them something. You're going to teach them what to do. You're going to tell them to do it. And then you're going to provide. TAP, teach, assign, provide. The provide is what resource or help do they need to get the assignment done that will solidify what you've taught. Okay. Then, so if it's a single product, you might only tap once or twice, right? You teach 2 things, assign 2 things, provide 2 things. If it's a longer group coaching program, 12 weeks, it might be 12 taps. All right. But whatever they need to learn, whatever they need to do, and whatever they need to have, that's what you put in this course. You know your stuff. You're an expert at what you do. Tell them how to do what you do.
Okay, so we've gone through, we've figured out what the overall topic should be for the course, checked it with people, done DMs or quick calls. We might have done surveys, pre-sold it to absolutely be sure. Gone through and figured out what resources we already got, what things already exist, that 10 video series or a webinar that was never published, or different internal resources that we use that maybe we could turn into handouts, whatever. Collected all of that together. Cool. Yep. Then we're going through, and for each module, each section of the course, we're going through and figuring out the tap. So okay, what are we teaching? What's the action? What was the last one? What was the P for?
Provide. So you're going to teach them something, assign them something, and provide them a resource.
So we've got all of that together. Talk to me about bonuses, because this is fun, right? This kind of crosses over between the creating the course and doing the marketing of the course. Can you explain to people, first of all, why bonuses matter for marketing the course? Why not just shove everything in the course? Why class something as a bonus? And secondly, how do people figure out what should be those bonuses?
Okay. So I have had clients, more than a handful, that have said, I want a sales page for this course. And I say, okay, do you have any bonuses? And they say no. And I say, okay. And so I go in and I look at their assets and I look at, everything. And I'm like, okay. And I pull this out and I pull that out and I pull this out. And now I have a suite of bonuses that were in the course. So what you said, why not just include it in the course? A lot of people do that. They come to me and I undo it. And the reason is the perceived value. Okay. So if I was to say to you, hey, if you give me $60, I'm going to give you this piece of paper. You would be like, no, that doesn't sound good for me. But if I say, hey, if you give me $60, I'm going to give you this piece of paper and this piece of paper, right? If I'm going to give you these 5 things, piece of paper is probably a terrible example, but I'm a writer, I need time to think of things. It makes it feel beefier. All right. The smaller the thing, the smaller your course, it could have life-changing information in it, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it's enough, especially because in the head of your customer, this problem is insurmountable. I can't move forward until I solve A, B, or C. That's what your product's about. But you're telling me you can do it in 3 videos? No, you can't. Because I've been struggling with it for however long, and it's been causing me all this worry and all this stress. You can't solve it that fast. It's not that easy because I'm smarter than that. That's what's going on in the head of your person. So by saying, okay, so I'm going to help you get started with this, but then I'm going to give you this and this and this and this, and that's going to all help you solve your problem. It's like, yeah, you know what? It is going to take all of that because this problem's really big, and this will help me get where I need to go. This is going to close all the gaps that I have felt when I try to solve this problem. And so that's the idea behind perceived value. I'm just trying to give you some of what your people are thinking. And so when you choose your bonuses, it's really, really tempting to just say, well, I have this 10 video series and it solves the problem really well. And then I'm going to throw in 30 random things that I happen to have laying around. And my friend Jenny Wright, she's a lead generation specialist, but she calls it the virtual yard sale of products, right? You just put everything out and it just doesn't look great. Instead, I call this the bonus sandwich. I have names for everything. And so your meat of the sandwich, or whatever, if you're a vegetarian, is your course, right? The middle of your sandwich, the goods, is your course, and the bread is your bonus. So what you want to think is, what do they need to get started? What do they need before they start in order to be successful with what I'm teaching in this course? That's the top piece. Then you have your course. Then the bottom piece of bread is, what do they need to fill all the gaps and to continue success once they've completed. And this is usually your resources, templates, checklists, those kinds of things to help them implement what they've learned. So let's go home organization. All right, what do they need before they get my mega course on home, how to organize their home to stop stressing themselves out? Well, they need to know maybe how to declutter. That's what they need before they get started, because we come into module 1 assuming they've already decluttered. So I'm going to give them my declutter course as a bonus. Cool. What do they need after? Well, they need to know how to keep it organized. And so I'm going to give them a weekly task checklist, right? Every under 5 minutes for them and their whole family to help create a habit. That's my bonus. Get started, keep going. And you're right. That helps sell it. That goes into the marketing of everything.
Nice. Beautiful. All right, cool. So we've figured out about what to make the course about, how to make it, and how to make bonuses that go with it as well to make it easier to sell. Beautiful. Right. If people heard your wisdom and they want to learn more from you, where can people go? What's the what resources you got people can access?
For sure. So at the time of this recording, I am working on getting my website updated, but it's still live, just a little broken, at alysonlex.com, and that's ALYSONLEX.com. I'm also Alyson Lex on every social platform, and you can head to alysonlex.com/essential and pick up a guide that I wrote on email sequences to have in your business. I'll break down what they are, and I'll also give you some hints on what to include in each one.
Beautiful. All right. If you found the interview useful and you want to get future episodes, please subscribe wherever you listened. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate you enormously. And thank you, Alyson, for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.